Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you'd shrunk? Your words barely registering, your presence fading into the background, and wondered why you keep letting people steamroller your thoughts and time? It happens more than we talk about. Someone interrupts you mid-sentence, tosses out a snide remark as if it's a joke, or glances at their watch while you're speaking, and suddenly you're left with that hollow feeling of being invisible, of not mattering, like you took up space you didn't quite earn. And that's the quiet tragedy of so many of our daily interactions. We're taught to be agreeable, to not make waves, to give the benefit of the doubt, even when our gut is whispering, "This doesn't feel right." We nod, we laugh nervously, we change the subject. We give the other person an out instead of standing up for ourselves. But here's the truth that too often goes unsaid. Respect isn't something you argue for. It's not awarded to those who shout the loudest or dominate the room. It's something you command, often in silence, often without fanfare, through the calm, grounded habits that say, without words, "I know who I am." These small shifts don't require a script. They don't demand confrontation or bravado. But when practiced consistently, they reshape your presence and how the world responds to it. 1. The quiet look. The next time someone cuts you off, dismisses your comment, or barrels over your contribution in a meeting or conversation, resist the impulse to fight fire with fire. Instead, pause. Let silence enter the space. Inhale slowly, center yourself, and then do something so powerful, so deceptively simple, it feels like a spell. Look at them. Not a glare, not a smirk, just a clear, steady gaze that says, "I saw that, and I'm still here." I once sat across from a colleague who had a habit of interrupting everyone, but especially me. Every time I started to speak, he'd jump in with his point. Louder, faster, more insistent. It used to fluster me. I'd trail off, unsure whether to interrupt back or just wait my turn. But one day, I stopped. I leaned back, rested my arms on the table, and when he bulldozed into my sentence, I didn't speak. I just looked at him, calm, present, unfazed. Within seconds, he began to stumble over his words. He looked at me, then around the room, and finally fell silent. I finished my thought uninterrupted. That 5-second window told him more than any rebuttal ever could. I am not invisible, and I won't be erased. That's the magic of the quiet look. It doesn't attack or plead. It simply holds space. And in a world full of noise, stillness speaks volumes. Shita. 2. Saying nothing. There's an old lie that silence equals weakness. That if you don't respond, don't defend, don't fight back, you're conceding. But sometimes the strongest stance is choosing not to dance with disrespect. Sarcasm disguised as humor, backhanded compliments, pointed jokes that cut a little too deep. These aren't just social clumsiness. Often, they're control tactics dressed up as levity. And your silence in response, that's not surrender. That's strategy. A dear friend of mine used to mock my ideas under the guise of wit. I'd offer a perspective, and he'd laugh. "Oh, that's so you," like my thoughts were charmingly naive or slightly foolish. I used to explain myself, rephrase, soften my stance. But one day, I didn't. I let the comment hang in the air like smoke. No smile, no defense, just presence. He shifted, waited for me to engage. I didn't. I folded my hands, looked out the window, and said nothing. That one moment reset our dynamic more than years of trying to be understood. Why? Because without your reaction, their barbs lose weight. Without your emotional labor to decode or clean up their mess, they're left holding their own awkwardness. Saying nothing is not the absence of strength. It is its quiet proof. Ishira 3. The one-sentence answer. There's a subtle pressure in modern life to explain yourself constantly, to justify every decision, every boundary, every quiet change. You leave a job and people ask why. You decide not to drink at a party and eyebrows lift. You opt out of family drama or a group trip and suddenly you're the selfish one, the mystery, the problem. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone a performance about your peace. When someone asks, "Why would you do that?" or "Are you sure that's the right call?" you're allowed to say, "That's just what felt right for me." No over-explaining, no emotional spreadsheet, just that. It's disarming, really. People expect explanations because it gives them something to debate. But a one-sentence answer, calm, grounded, clear, leaves no cracks to wedge into. It's a boundary that needs no gates. I once downsized my home, and someone asked, "But don't you miss having all that space?" I smiled and said, "Not really. It just felt right to simplify." I didn't list the reasons or justify the math, and in doing so, I gave them no room to challenge my peace. Your choices don't need to be auditioned for approval. They need only feel true to you. Chapter 4. Stepping back when needed. Let's be clear. You do not need to stay close to people who continuously chip away at your spirit just because they're family or old friends or have good intentions. If someone's tone pattern of interruption, passive-aggressive comments, or constant needling leaves you emotionally drained, you're allowed to create space. 5. Standing tall without words. When someone tries to belittle you, whether with a dismissive tone, a belittling comment, or an exaggerated eye roll, the natural instinct is to shrink, to look down, change the subject, laugh it off, or offer some kind of apologetic explanation. Don't. Instead, lift your chin, roll your shoulders back. Keep your face neutral, your energy grounded. Let your body say what your voice doesn't need to. I am not less than you. I'll never forget a family gathering where a cousin chuckled and said, "You call that success?" After I shared a recent personal milestone, I didn't reply. I didn't flinch. I simply straightened my posture, turned to refill my drink, and carried on. The room noticed. So did he. He never made a similar comment again. Your composure tells people how they're allowed to treat you. Your posture sends a signal. I will not stoop to explain myself to someone committed to misunderstanding me. Subscribe for more. Watch the videos on screen.